welcome to the Quarantine Sessions. I've been thinking lately about how great stories are sort of like magic tricks. There's a setup and then a promise, and then before you know it, something amazing has happened that you never could have expected. Today's story comes from Micaela Blei, and it's not only a piece of magic, it's also about a magic trick, and about the little illusions and lies that we tell ourselves to make us all feel better. Enjoy.
When I was in high school, I thought the way you flirted was by making a boy cry in English class. That was my move. I had guy friends, but no boyfriends. It was a New England high school. Everyone was lacrosse and Dave Matthews Band. That was not me. Back in high school, when I had all those guy friends, it always looked like we were dating. And people would ask me, "Are you with so-and-so?" And I wouldn't say yes. I wasn't going to lie. But the space between when they asked and when I told them no was my favorite. It was the closest I ever got to having a boyfriend. And so I sort of figured I would wait until college and find the nerdy man of my dreams. It's the first night of freshman year. There's a party in my dorm, and my dorm is girls' floor, boys' floor, girls' floor, boys' floor, which might as well be MTV's The Real World to me. It's scandalous. This is where things are going to happen, right? And there's this little knot of people at this party who are all gathered around this one guy, and he's wearing a velvet jacket and has a pompadour like Elvis, and he's doing magic tricks. And I'm like, that's my guy. When the crowd dissipates, I introduce myself and we hit it off right away. I mean, forget lacrosse and Dave Matthews Band. This guy loves art history and he loves Morrissey, and we make each other laugh right away, and it just kind of works. And I find myself looking at his mouth and thinking, I'm gonna kiss this guy. And he tells me very humbly that he's actually a really good magician. He won the Junior Magic Olympics in high school, which is a thing I had not known, and that in fact he has given David Copperfield a trick. We'd been hanging out for a few weeks when we had one of those accidental kisses. Not accidental exactly, but it's late at night and you're sitting in a coffin in the back of some dorm. That's what happens. And we kissed, and we pulled away and he hugged me, and I remember thinking, that's the first time I've ever kissed someone that I love. And it's about 5 days into almost entirely spending time together that he tells me, I have to tell you something that I've been really struggling with. And I said, sure. And he said, I think I might be gay. What I should think at that point is, wow, I'm going to help him through this. This is someone who's going to become a good friend. Instead, I think, oh, we must really be in love because he's telling me everything. Several weeks into freshman year, it's coming on Parents' Weekend, and Ash tells me that his parents are coming and he's not ready to tell them yet that he's gay, and would I pretend to be his girlfriend for his parents? Which means we would pretend to be together for my parents as well. And that's totally fine with me. And when we meet his parents, he keeps his hand on the small of my back, and it feels amazing. And his mom hugs me, and my mom hugs him, and it just feels really good. I know it's not real, but it just feels really good. And after that, it got harder and harder for me to separate not really dating with really dating. And finally, we were studying on his bed, sort of lying side by side, and I reached over and tried to kiss him. And he stopped me physically, and he looked at me and said, I love you, but you're gonna find someone to be in love with. And I said, yeah, totally, of course, oh my gosh. And I packed up my books and I went back to my room, and I just felt so dumb. And a couple of weeks after that, we hadn't seen each other a lot at all. And he came to me and he said that David Copperfield was coming to town. And anytime David Copperfield comes to town, he gets 2 tickets in the second row. And would I like to come with him? Would I be his date? And I said, yeah, absolutely. So we got really dressed up, and we both wore velvet, and we went to this huge theater, and sat in the second row, and Ash whispered to me excitedly that everyone in the front row were really famous magicians. And I met them all, and he again kept his hand on the small of my back. And in the back of my head, I wondered if I was like being his girlfriend again, but I didn't mind. And the show started, and he hadn't told me his trick. He hadn't told me which trick that he had given David Copperfield, but it was in this show. And he said, you should guess which one is my trick. And every time there was a new trick, I would lean over and I would say, that's not it, that's not it. Finally, it was the end of the entire show, and Copperfield comes out in this billowy white pirate shirt with a pair of scissors and a piece of paper. And he's folding the paper in tiny little pieces while he's talking about how when he was little in New Jersey, he always wanted snow days and it would never snow. And he's cutting this paper. And he says, so he learned a way to make it snow. And he threw out his hand, and of course, just paper came down. And then he moves his hand again, and this time, it really seems to be snow. And I look over at Ash, and I say, this is your trick. And he nods. And then Copperfield moves his hand again, and more snow is blowing. And now, suddenly, he moves his hands, and there's snow everywhere in the theater. We can see all the way up to the flies. There's no machines, but there is snow blowing everywhere in this giant theater, and people are standing up, and they're trying to catch it, and I am dazzled. I mean, I'm standing there and I glance down and there's Ash and he's just smiling like, yes, I did this. And I know this is an illusion. I know this isn't real magic, but honestly, I don't care. It's so beautiful. It's so real in that moment. And I know that the two of us actually love each other. And that doesn't mean we're going to be together. But in that moment, it's enough to stand there in the snow.